master plan was more specifically hashed out with our bicycle advocacy group, a group of interested bicyclists around our community that are, a lot of people would know them. They ride bikes in our community all the time and are interested in safe bicycling for all of the people who ride bicycles. And so probably about 3 years ago, they approached the city to say, could we help kind of finalize an actual plan and what the actual streets should be. And so they helped us with city staff and with a lot of involvement of the community to ride the streets that they felt like were the best and to finalize where we thought the best streets would be for bicycling. And that over time took us, we did that with our police department as well. We had quite a group of people talking about it. Our Bicycle Friendly America, that is a group in the US that actually rates cities on how friendly their community is to bicyclists. And in Kansas, there's a few communities that have had that rating performed on them, the city of Shawnee, the city of Manhattan, and the city of Lawrence. And so we felt like that would be a good start for us to see where do we sit so far and where can we improve on how friendly our community is to bicyclists. So over time, we developed the map actually that was adopted in February of this year actually. It was adopted by our city commission, and we feel like this is a good start. It can be amended as time goes along, but for now we have a fairly good start at a specific plan for our community. And one thing to recognize, in the past, we've had quite a few bicyclists in our community for many years. There used to actually be a bike route on Marymount and Iron Street, so it was, a lot of people that have been in this community a while remember when we actually had bike lanes or streets that were designated as bicycle routes. So many of those routes have kind of resurfaced as, yep, those are still pretty good routes to use, or if they're not, we found some new ones. But there are certain areas of town and routes that people have thought these are the best, the safest, or the widest roads, or the nicest roads, or have the best vehicular traffic to, that we think it's the safest place for people to ride bicycles, and also to get them to the places in the community that everybody wants to go. So the bike lanes on the streets are just a way to facilitate that, all the users, I guess, of the travel system to make it safer for cars to understand there might be a bike here, bikes to understand I should really be riding on this side of the road or in this area. That makes it a little bit safer for me. And the cars, we can share the road basically, and if we have enough space for it. We have two different kinds of pavement markings. We have actual bike lanes, which are two stripes with a bicycle and an arrow in the bike lanes. And so where we have enough room on our streets, we try to make a bike lane. And so like you'll see those on Santa Fe, downtown area. We have fairly wide roads there. We can allow parking, basically about 7 to 8 foot of parking, 5 to 7 feet of a bike lane, and then 10 to 12 feet of a vehicle lane. So all of that can fit in that corridor if everybody kind of shares their spot. But areas of town where we don't have enough room on the road to allow parking, or the lane widths aren't quite wide enough, we just have sharrow markings, and sharrow markings look like a bicycle as well, but they have some arrows on top of the bike. They're a little shorter, and they're just a share the road marking basically. So they're really no different than any road in town, other than these roads have been designated as areas where we may have more bikers. We feel like they're decent roads for biking, and so a vehicle or a biker would you'll possibly see more bicycles on that road, and it's just to share the road marking. We have proposed about a little over 40 miles of bike lanes on the roads. We already have some levee trails, which a little over 6 miles of levee trail where you can ride your bike or walk, or recreational use trail basically is on top of our Salina flood control levee. We also have some trails, some wide sidewalks along some of our streets. So we have proposed around 9 miles of those, a little over 9 miles of wide sidewalks thus far, and so we'll have more options over the last 10 years, and over the next 5 to 7 years, as this is implemented, we'll have a lot more options for pedestrians and bicycles. The process for constructing bike lanes is we have a maintenance program where we use microsurfacing, mill and inlay. Those are our normal asphalt maintenance treatments that you'll see on our streets. So whether we are putting new asphalt on Ohio Street, or putting some microsurfacing in your neighborhood or along many of our streets, actually chip seal, there's other things that we do as a city maintenance program every year. And so we have to maintain our streets to try to keep them from decaying and going into disrepair. If you can treat them on the surface with one of those treatments every 5 to 7 years is kind of the normal time frame, depending on money and how good a shape they're in. But our plan with the bike lanes is to follow that process as well. So it doesn't make as much sense economically and for the taxpayers to, for us to go out and try to get rid of all of our pavement markings and redo them all, because pavement markings are costly. They're supposed to last a while, and so if we have to try to implement a bike plan in 1 year, it would be a significant cost to the city to try to do that. So with our annual maintenance program, we're able to, each street that we perform maintenance on, we can look and see if that's on the bicycle master plan and say, okay, we're going to remark that street once we've overlaid it or microsurfaced it or chip sealed it with the new markings. They can come along at the same time, and they don't cost us a whole lot more than any markings that we would do on a street. It's harder to take up markings, put new ones down, than it is to just perform the markings at the time that we're doing the maintenance on the road. So to say we're going to implement the plan over the next 5 to 7 years, I think is a fair statement. Some of our roads are concrete, so if it's a concrete road, we don't typically do a lot of maintenance to our concrete roads. So we'll have to find out or figure out another way to address those. But for the majority of the streets, you'll see bike lanes and bike share symbols go down over the next 7 years. Bicycle lanes shouldn't have parking on. They shouldn't have a whole lot of impact on parking. The bicycle lanes, where we have the room, we're able to designate parking areas and bicycle lanes, and where we have share the road symbols, we've allowed for parking and the bicyclist and the vehicle based on where the share was placed. The sharrows and the bike lanes are our first step in helping to educate drivers on being cautious of bicyclists. So as they share the roads, as we see more bicyclists in our community, a driver should be aware more if there's a bicyclist on the road. And so if a bicyclist is already on the road to the right, the driver would yield to the bicyclist. And basically, the bicyclist is supposed to have the same, abide by the same rules as the driver. So it's just like any other vehicle would have to yield to another vehicle, you yield to the bicyclist in the same way. So when you're turning right, if a bicyclist is turning right, then you'll just be behind the bicyclist. Or if the bicyclist is behind you, you understand that there's a bicyclist next to you or behind you that you should be aware of before you make the turn. Parking wise, the bicyclists will be sometimes in the bike lanes or sometimes in the shared lanes. So we would hope that people in our community would start thinking about, when you open your door, to consider there might be a bicyclist coming along. On the other hand, the bicyclist needs to understand that if somebody opens their door and they're riding right next to parked cars, that somebody could open their door. So they would ride far enough away from the cars to make sure that the door doesn't hit the bicyclist. So it's a mutual understanding now, as we have more bicyclists in town, that we share the roads and share the parking as well. When a driver is entering and exiting their driveway, they'll definitely need to look for bicyclists, just like they would today for a car or a pedestrian. You just would also want to be looking for bicycles.